Welcome to Growing for Good with Funding for Good. My name is Mandy. I'm the owner of Funding for Good, and today I want to talk to you for just a second about grant research. I've had a lot of folks here at the end of the year asking me about writing their budgets, putting dollars in for next year, and one of the topics that comes up very often is grants. Some organizations use grant line item to fill in the dollars they can't figure out how to put in any other line item, or if they're like, we still need $17,000 to make our budget, they throw that in the grants line item. And I really discourage you from doing that for a lot of reasons. One, you can't guarantee that funding is going to come in unless it's a multi-year grant, and then by all means put that in your grant line item for your budget. But the other thing is, you really want to become sustainable without having to rely on grant funding. And if you're going to use grant funding, hopefully you can use it for programs or projects or things that you might not need to duplicate in future years, like equipment purchases. If you're relying on grant funding for your salaries and your general operating costs, then that becomes a scary place for some organizations, because if those funding sources dry up, then you're really putting your eggs in one basket as far as funding streams. So I encourage you to diversify your funding streams. But for those of you that are reliant on some grants, or you do have those appropriate programs, projects, or capital campaigns that you know you're going to want to use grants for in 2018, the thing I also encourage you to do is to start doing your grant research right now. So it takes 6 to 9 months to secure grant funding once you locate it. So you always want to be looking for the grants that you need at least a year ahead of time, which means you have to know what the projection of your needs are going to be. What do you want to do as capital improvement in 2018? What are you going to do to grow programs and projects? Do you have a new program starting? Are you working on a capital campaign? Do you want to purchase a new piece of equipment? What are those things on your needs list? And have you identified those as an organization as a whole and broken them out by departments? Once you have your needs list, the next thing you're going to really need to have before you can move forward and do successful grant research is a dollar amount associated with each need. And here's a real good reason why. When I'm doing grant research for clients, I'm not only looking at what their organization does and where they're located, but I'm looking at what their need is and the dollar amount associated with it, because some organizations that would support a certain cause may only support organizations that have an operating budget of $1 million or more, have an operating budget of $500,000 or less, etc. But they also may have restrictions like, we don't fund more than $25,000 per request, or for initial requests, so the first time you've ever applied with an organization, they won't fund you more than $10,000, or they'll only fund $2,500 a year, etc. If you don't know the annual operating budget of your organization as well as the amount that you're needing for this program or project, you're not going to know if that foundation is a good fit. Let's say that you want to go to the William Randolph Hearst Foundation, and you know that they fund one of the types of work that you're doing. They're like, this is a perfect fit for my program or project. We should definitely go to them for funding. But you don't know what your organizational operating budget is. You only know what this program or project budget is. If you don't know that information, you're going to miss the piece of their application that says, we only fund organizations that have an operating budget of $1 million or more. And unless you have an operating budget of $1 million or more, you don't qualify. So you're going to go through a lot of trouble, and you're going to maybe do some work that you don't need to do just to find out in the end that you didn't qualify to begin with. If you want to do successful grant research, or you want to have someone do successful grant research for you, this is some of the type of information they're going to need to know. Additionally, who's funded you in the past? How much? Who's rejected you in the past? Because it's just as important to know who's funded you so you don't go back to those same people, or maybe you do go back to those same people. And it's also important to know who's rejected you and why. Maybe they rejected you because they wanted you to come back in another year with a different project. Maybe they rejected you because we don't really fund the kind of work you do. Maybe they rejected you because you've applied too many times in a row and they wanted you to take a few years off. So it's really helpful to know some of this information before you start doing grant research, so you're not wasting your time and you can be as productive as possible. If you need help with your grant research, please feel free to visit us online at fundingforgood.org. We have information about our research services. We do that for people all the time, and we can help you find the great prospects for your programs and your projects and for your budgets for 2018. So I hope this was a little bit helpful. I'm going to come back with a few more tips for grant research here this week and next week, and then some on grant writing, and we're going to do a lot on grant writing in 2018. If you have any questions or comments, please put those in the link below. And again, you can email me directly at mandy@fundingforgood.org. Hope you all have a great week.